start of day 5. Camp is breaking up. Porters are packing up. Most of the trekkers are on their way already. We're doing last minute packing. There's our destination. Tomorrow morning at 6:30, we will arrive at the top.
So there I was in Victoria, British Columbia, one more time on tenterhooks while this was playing out on a mountaintop in faraway Africa. By the way, hi, Lobo, from Travels with Lobo and Barbara, to talk to you about another aspect of Barbara's climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Every blog should have a good plot, and maybe even a subplot. Barbara and Cornelia were providing the plot. Would they reach the top of Uru Peak within the planned 7 days? Meanwhile, back here in Victoria, British Columbia, on the Pacific coast of Canada where we live, I was providing the subplot. As alarm bells were going off in my head because of the numbers. Let me explain. News headline reads, and I'll read this in my best newsreader's voice: historic blizzard strikes United States Northeast. Winter storm Juno is expected to dump up to 3 feet, around a meter of snow in parts of the Northeast, with the worst affected areas likely to be New England, particularly Connecticut and Massachusetts. So apparently a meter of snow can create a historic blizzard crisis. That makes me feel better. Stay with me. A meter is 100 centimeters. 3 nights before Barbara and Cornelia were to make their final nighttime ascent, starting just before midnight on day 5 to Uru Peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, the weather forecast called for, get this, 91 centimeters, almost a meter. 91 centimeters. I can't believe it. So at this point, I had my own personal crisis, as I could just picture them being trapped on the mountain with 91 centimeters of snow. Remember, the last time I talked with Barbara was at the Bristol Cottages in Moshi, just for about a minute between their safari and their climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. There's no communication. Once you're on the mountain, you're on the mountain. So how did I proceed? Well, like anyone else who can't sleep, I got up and I wrote an email. In this case, to Bryson Heroes Tours in Moshi, Tanzania. As I was writing, the 91 centimeters kept getting bigger and bigger in my head, and that caused me to send a copy to the Canadian High Commission in Dar es Salaam. I felt that nobody should be on that mountain with 91 centimeters of snow, and they might as well know about it. To my dismay, the next morning, the email to Bryson Tours had bounced back. Time was of the essence, and I resorted to Skype. Luckily, I caught them just as they were about to close for the day. The voice at the other end turned out to be Vincent, the operations manager of Bryson Heroes Tours. Thankfully, his response was very calm and reassuring in reply to my dismay at the snow forecast for the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Remember, on day 5, just before midnight, they were to start their 4.86 kilometer climb to the summit. It was to take approximately 6 to 7 hours, and would gain a stunning 1,395 meters in altitude. Uruhu Peak would be reached at sunrise, and after a short celebration, if all goes well, they would immediately head back down. That was the plan. Getting back to the reassuring telephone conversation with Vincent, the operations manager, the bottom line was that they would try and get in contact with their guide Andrew at Barafu Camp. It would ultimately be his call. Also cautioned that communications with Barafu was iffy. Under the circumstances, that was about all I could have asked for. Subsequently, I got an email from Bryson telling me that on the morning of the scheduled climb, he could clearly see the top of Mount Kilimanjaro from Moshi. That cheered me up, but the weather on a mountain can change on the turn of a dime, especially considering the weather forecast. So there I was in Victoria, British Columbia, one more time on tenterhooks while this was playing out on a mountaintop in faraway Africa. By the way, the Canadian High Commission in Dar es Salaam did reply promptly and gave me the only answer that they could have: deal with Bryson Tours. And, by the way, all the best. Well, that was reassuring, but really, what did I expect? All I could think about as I went to bed that night was Barbara and Cornelia on that mountain with all that snow. It was not a pretty picture. Well, I must have gotten some sleep because one more time I woke up at 3 in the morning. And if you can't sleep, what do? You get up and you check your email. And that's what I did. And there it was. An email from Bryson Heroes Tours. I took a deep breath and clicked. Oh my. Stay tuned.